العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي كل وقت وحين وفي الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Inshallah, it's nice to be with you all here for this part 2 on this subject. I want to start with a little story just to, I don't know, I guess set the mood and share this story with you. So there was a famous sheikh, his name is Sheikh Yasin Ahmed Eid, and he tells of a man who died and left a big home and no children to inherit this home. And the house was, in a secluded area. It was very big, all decked out, marble and, inscriptions on the walls and all of this stuff. It was an expensive home. And when they put it on the market, there were rumors that this house was haunted and that there was jinn that were living there. So anytime someone would go check out the house, they would run away, like scared, because there were things that would happen. And so people started talking about this house, the value of the house plummeted, went way down. So one day, the relatives that were still kind of managing the home and the sale and this and that, they got an offer on the house, but it was only a quarter of the value. So the relatives were upset, and they didn't want to sell the home for that, that low price, right? So what they did is, on the night before actually selling the house and getting paid for it, because they needed the money, even though they didn't want to sell at that price, they had to, because there was no other choice at this point. They had somebody come to them and it was like a big dude, and he says, look, I know the bind that you're in, and I'm going to spend the night in the house, and I'm going to take care of this jinni for you. And, but you all got to pay me, right? And so they paid him half money up front for doing this work. This young dude was, went to the gym, big muscles, all this stuff, thought he was a bad dude. And he took his gun with him too. And he goes to spend the night there, right? And so he puts his candles on in the house and stuff, and then he finally goes to sleep. A few minutes later, the cover is being pulled off the bed. The blanket is being pulled off him. So he grabs it and says, who's pulling the cover? There is a voice that answered in a very spooky way, I'm a jinni, and I must take the cover, I will possess your body. So the man, he let go of the cover. Like, imagine the jinni is trying to pull it, and you do that move when you just let it go, and the jinni falls back, right? So the man jumps on him and puts the gun at his head and says, who are you? Right? So the man is now on top of the jinni, right? So now the jinni, in quotes, is scared and says, if you let go of me, I'll tell you who I really am. So the young man let go of him, and he speak, who are you? So he says, I'm not a shaitan, I'm not a jinni, I'm just a human being just like you are, and I was hired to do this work, to scare people off. And so he tells me, tell me the whole story. He says, I'm a poor man, and he says, I have a family that I can't support, and I went to a rich man to look for a job. And the man asked me to come every night to this house and scare everybody off. And anytime people will come to the house, I would start, banging on stuff and making noise And if the person inside was courageous and like they still weren't scared, right? Then I would flood the house with water, and the water would come out the mouths of the statues. They hooked up the the things to make it all look all spooky, and then I would climb on the roof and I start screaming out loud until the people would get scared and they would leave, right? And so he asked the so-called jinni, which was a man, asked the young man, keep this a secret. And the young man who was brave enough to go do that night, he took that guy who was guarding the house, and he took him to the owners of the house, and he told them the story, and they found out later on that this man was hired by somebody else who wanted to buy the house for a cheaper price. Right? So why do I tell you that story? I tell you that story last time I told you a story about an actual story of a jinn and the extraction, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these stories that are real. Some of them are fake. Some of them are fake. That's the point, right? We believe in the jinn. We absolutely have full yaqeen in their existence. But we also know that there are people who do weird stuff, right? Put on costumes, run around, do weird things, and that also exists. So just a little entertainment. I'll start the night off easy. There's one thing that's important here, though. We live in a time where many people are actually, they. According to one study, and I don't know about the accuracy of the study, but they say that 1 out of every 4 young people, I don't remember exactly what it said, born in America or raised in America, are leaving Islam. And one of the reasons that they say that they are leaving Islam is because they have a difficult time with some of the difficult subjects that are difficult to understand. Some of the things that are beyond our full comprehension. And then because there are certain things in our deen. We do believe in miracles of the prophets. We do believe in karamat of al-awliya, if you will, miracles of the righteous people, of the saints, so to speak. And those things often defy the things that some of the prophets were able to do. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's in the fire, and the fire is made cool for him. Kuni bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim, and he's able to walk away unscathed. The Prophet Salih, he's able to, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission, to make the mountain turn into a she-camel, into a massive camel, and that was a sign for the people. Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, peace be upon him, many miracles that he did, was able to cure the sick and give sight to the blind, and everything by Allah's permission, and so on. Unless you see those matters with your own eyes, you're like us. It's news that you hear, and many people struggle with believing those sort of things. Why am I sharing this? There's something really nice, a nice way to kind of understand this and to frame this in your mind, because it becomes a fitna for some people of knowing certain things about the deen that are beyond comprehension. The scholars, they talked about mustahilat, the things that are impossible. And they said there are 2 types of impossibles. One is what we call mustahil aqlan, and one is what we call mustahil adatan. Mustahil adatan means something is impossible normally, usually, by natural laws. So for example, if I told you, man, I just saw like Aftab, he was outside, he was flying, and then he landed, and then he just walked in the masjid. He was flying around in the sky, and He somehow and then he like, man, what are you talking about? That's impossible.
I didn't know you noticed that.
But what are you talking about? That's impossible, right? Is it? Can you visualize that? Yes or no? Yeah, right? You can visualize it. It's within the realm of possibility from a standpoint of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's powers and what He's able to do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do anything. هُوَ عَلَيْهِ هَيِّنٌ. Everything is easy for Allah. إِنَّمَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا إِنَّمَا يَقُولَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. When Allah wants something, He says, be and it is. He created the laws of nature, and then He also has the ability to break those laws of nature. So things can happen. But there's another type of impossibility, and that is things that are impossible. For example, mustahil aqlan, like it is physically actually impossible. If I have a big huge container and then I have this little small cup, can you put that big container in the cup? Huh? There's no way. It can't. If I say, the sisters, mashallah, there are about 50 sisters today here, and there's 40 brothers here today. Is it possible that there are more brothers than sisters? It's not. It's impossible. It's not. So there's two different types of impossibles. And so when we read certain things in the Quran, in the Sunnah, about things that break natural laws, that science can measure, and that doesn't follow the course of what is standard and what we know to be normative human practice or normative universal displays or manifestations of things, but it's something that we can envision. That's a possibility that can happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make that happen. There's another type of impossibility that's impossible, so we shouldn't conflate the two and mix the two, and helping Him separate them out in that way helps you to understand that certain things are then within the realm of possibility. They're not impossible. So I bring all of that up in this context. We're talking about things that some people say that's impossible. How can these things be? How can these things happen? Some of the things that we're going to be, we talked about last time, we're going to talk about today. Well, yeah, it is, they are not things that, some of the things that we're going to talk about are not within the realm of normalcy, within the realm of what is scientifically fully understood, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And so, anyways, just thought that was maybe a helpful introduction for some people, who, when they hear things like, man, this stuff doesn't make sense. So we talked about last time, so we'll jump into it. Last time we talked about some of these things. I'll just quickly flip through these for those that weren't here. Talked about our belief in the jinn. We talked about, how they're created, different types of jinn. The Prophet ﷺ said there are 3 types of jinn: those that have wings, they fly through the air; those that look like snakes and dogs; and those that stop and rest and then they resume their journey. They go around, they travel. And there's different types. They have different names. Iblis, of course, is the head of the jinn, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala. He is the father of the jinn, meaning that all of the jinn, they came from him. Of course, Shaitan is the enemy of man. They have certain powers. They have certain characteristics. We talked about these things all last time, so just quickly, just flipping through, just to kind of catch us up to speed. We talked about the qareen that we have. Each one of us have been assigned a jinn that lives with us, essentially. Again, some more of their powers and abilities. And so we stopped somewhere in this area, if I'm not mistaken. So we stopped somewhere here. Okay. So we talked a little bit about this last time. You know, understanding the reality of the jinn is something that unlocks and helps you to understand so many other things in the world that other people have that are confused about. Humanity is confused about, right? There are all of these things that happen that are unexplainable. You see all of these shows. I've always been fascinated since I was a kid. I would go to back in the day when kids would actually go to the library. I would go to the library. The stuff that interested me were books on Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, aliens, UFOs, and then all the weird stuff, right? I don't know why. And subhanAllah, when I understood the reality of jinn, and then it like subhanAllah is like, wow, okay, there are these things, and you see all of these shows on TV about things in the occult, things of the supernatural, things that people don't understand. And we understand as Muslims that it is very possible and most likely that all of those things, if they are in fact true, not fake, like we said in the beginning, some dude running around with a sheet over him and scaring people, right? If in fact what people have experienced are true, and people after last time, one of the uncles came to me and told me a story about, I saw some a little boy sitting in the corner of my house in my son's room, and people see those things and people experience these things. Well, we have no problem understanding that because these are the activities of jinn. So we talked about some of the there's this is interesting, when you think about UFOs. One of the scholars, Sheikh Umar al-Ashqar, he says, this is his belief, his perspective, and I see a lot of validity in it. He says that, look, there are so many reports of so many different things that we can't understand. Lights speeding through the sky, zipping around, this and that. And when we understand some of the qualities of the jinn, those things match up, they line up. And he says, well, why are people reporting these things now, and why did they never report these things in the past? Why don't we? And that may or may not be true. I don't know. Maybe those things did exist in the past. But he says because the jinn, they tend to put people through fitna, meaning try to confuse people, take them away from tawheed, by addressing the realities of the time. In other words, today it's all about science and proving everything through a scientific lens and so on and so forth. And certain things can't be understood, and therefore that will put people through fitna. And this is one of the ways in which they do that. So the jinn, they do these mischievous sort of things. That's the point. So, anyways, I thought that was an interesting take. We talked about the shapes they take. We talked about where they live briefly last time. And then I think this is exactly where we left off. So we'll start here, and I'll go through some of this, and we'll take questions at the end, insha'Allah ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about the jinn that they are different. There are those that are believers, there are those that are kuffar, and there are those that are, have a high level of iman, and there are those that have a low level of iman. Just like us, human beings, all of those different categories. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, and this is in Surah Al-Jinn, وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الْمُسْلِمُونَ وَمِنَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ فَمَنْ أَسْلَمَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ تَحَرَّوْا رَشَدًا وَأَمَّا الْقَاسِطُونَ فَكَانُوا لِجَهَنَّمَ حَطَبًا. And some of us, and this is the jinn speaking, some of us are Muslims and some of us are qasitun, disbelievers. And whoever has embraced Islam, then such have sought the right path. And as for the qasitun, the disbelievers, they shall be firewood for hell. So the Muslims amongst the jinn are different levels as regards their righteousness and taqwa. وَأَنَّا مِنَّا الصَّالِحُونَ وَمِنَّا دُونَ ذَلِكَ كُنَّا الطَّرَائِقَ قِدَدًا. That the jinn say, There are some of us that are righteous. There are some of us that are contrary to that. We have, we're different groups, different types. Okay, so now we come to sort of, I don't know how to put judgment on this, but now we come to a interesting part. So we do believe that Jinn can possess people, and so there are different types of possession, and so on its the word that is used in Arabic, al-mas. Al-mas is to touch. So that the jinn can, touch someone on a very light level, or they can on a very heavy level. And so you have what's called al-mas al-kulli, which is complete possession, afflicts the whole body. That's when a person will go into convulsions and all of those things. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. That is an extreme form where a person can become possessed. Then there's what's called al-mas al-juz'i, that a partial possession that afflicts a certain part of the body, right? It is much lighter. Then there's al-mas al-da'im and al-mas al-ta'if. There's somebody who's for a long period of time, and then for somebody for a short period of time. The jinn can stay on their own, or they can leave as they want. And then, of course, there's means and ways by which to take them out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and here's a reference of how what they do. الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. There's the word at the end, right? They stand as one who is being beaten by Satan into insanity, that they are being afflicted by shaitan. So how does one get possessed? How does this happen? Okay. Before I go into this, I do want to, this is not some people think that this is a topic, for entertainment and stuff like that. It's not an entertaining topic, obviously, when you read these things. And this topic is not also not to scare. It's not also to scare. You shouldn't walk right away from here and freaked out. And no, life goes on as normal. Everything you live your life, but there's actually some protective measures that we want to learn, so that we don't have certain problems and issues. And if there have been issues, then we know about how to move forward from that. So I'll go through some of this fairly quickly, because I don't think this is pertinent unless it's pertinent, unless it's going on with you. But it is important that we employ in our lives on a daily basis some basic protective measures. So let's see, situations and states one will be in when a jinni will possess. Remember, we said one jinn is called a jinni, from which the word genie in English comes from, right? So they make a person more susceptible, more vulnerable. So when one is in a state of extreme anger, a state of extreme fear, they prey on weakness, extreme happiness, even extreme forgetfulness and negligence, one who's drowning in their desires in whatever form that may be. And then of course when one hurts and harms the jinns. We made a couple of references last time, right? We gave a story about a woman who accidentally fell upon a jinn, and then the jinn possessed her and would bother her. So that's also a possibility, that one can either intentionally or unintentionally hurt or harm the jinn. One of the, you read oftentimes, and these are sometimes we think these are, from the old generation, these are things that they just say, and then, no, but these are things that are real. Like where you pour your hot water. Like there's stories of jinn that would possess people because they would just throw their hot water out the window, out the street. and it would fall on a jinn, and then they take revenge, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited someone from disturbing a burrow, like a hole in the ground. It looks like an animal lives or something like that, because the jinn occupy those. And if you disturb it, you bother it, then they will come and harm you, and so forth. So let's see. Reasons which cause the jinn to enter a person. Why does it happen? When it could be a test or trial from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could be a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It could be due to desire, passion, and love. Meaning, the jinn are attracted to certain people, and they fall infatuated with someone, in a sensual, passionate sort of way. And so that can happen. And the reason why we know that happened, because there are many of the mashayikh, they talk about when they extracted the jinn, when they did ruqya and such, then they would talk to the jinn, and what happened, well, I was in love with this person. It was very strange, subhanAllah. A means of revenge, we mentioned, that's a common one, actually. And then it could be a result of magic. In other words, somebody doing some sort of black magic, and the result of that black magic is now the person is affected and afflicted by the jinn. Imam al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was asked one time, he says, they said to him, does Iblis sleep? He said, if he did, we'd find rest. Subhanallah, may Allah protect us. He is always plotting, always planning, and he has a whole army at his disposal to do his bidding. And so it's important that we have measures and means by which we protect ourselves from these by and large unseen creatures. One thing that I was just researching, and we talked a little bit about this last time, but for more clarity, we cannot see the jinn in their pure form. We cannot see the jinn in their pure form, but we can see them in their transformed form. You mentioned that there are ways in which they can transform. They can take the shape of a human in certain cases. They can take the shape of an animal in other cases, and so forth. Those are instances when they can be seen. So anyways, let's see. So how do we protect ourselves from the jinn? Number one, we be firm on the Quran and the Sunnah. In other words, we live as we should. Followers of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Everything that we do, my salah, my sacrifices, all of my rituals, and all of my life, and all of my death, everything is for Allah, right? Living that virtuous lifestyle is the number one factor and means by which we protect ourselves. By the way, sorry for this font is so weird. Every time you have an apostrophe, it puts a big old gap. So I don't know what that is. Number two, reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to tawakkal on Allah to take care of us at all times. We seek refuge in Allah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Whenever we are afraid, whenever we sense something, whenever we're uncomfortable, whenever we have some anxiety, and so forth. Upon entering the bathroom specifically, right? Specific dua that we make. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubthi wal-khaba'ith. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from the male and the female devils. That's what the dua says. When you enter the bathroom, Ya Allah, I seek refuge in you from the male and female devils. By the way, as a small point, when we say the bathroom, we're talking about the toilet specifically. So if you have a bathroom where, just for knowledge's sake, if you have a bathroom where sometimes the toilet is in its own little thing, right? With the door behind it, maybe the toilet and the shower are together. Sometimes your whole bathroom is open all into one. The sink, the toilet, shower, everything is there. If you enter into that kind of bathroom, then you're entering into that space essentially. So you make that dua, right, when you come to the door. If you're entering into the toilet part, only like if you have a door separating it, that's where it starts. So because why? There's some other sort of considerations that also play into that. In the toilet area, you don't say Allah's name, right? But if you're in the sink area, and especially if there's a door separating the toilet, then it's fine to say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, it's fine to remember Him, and so on and so forth. So, and some, for whatever benefit that is. To seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we get angry, right? To bring our temperature down. Before we have sexual relations. Somebody help me with the dua.
I know in English.
Tell me in English, you might talk to me.
Seek refuge in Allah from from shaitan, protect him from
اللهم جنبنا الشيطان.
Allahumma janibna shaytan wa janibna shaytan mimma razaqna. Right? Oh Allah, protect us from the shaytan and from what we may be provided with. In other words, children. So that's another instance. Upon entering the home, even reciting al-mu'awwadatain, reciting Surah Al-Falaq, reciting Surah Al-Nas, right? Those are means by which we are protected. They protect you from the jinn. They are direct references. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. So from the evil of which He has created, right? وَمِنْ شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ, and so on. And then Surah Al-Nas, the same. There's specific protections we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from matters that are unseen. Reciting Ayatul Kursi is also a means of protecting ourselves. Reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, specifically, if you're not able to, of course, recite the whole, the beginning, the end. These are things that we want to build in, not only like in a moment of fear, but as a daily practice, right? If you have your daily regimen or daily wird of saying these surahs, these ayahs, that is you are putting yourself in constant protection. And many different hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that mention, before you go to sleep, read Ayatul Kursi, and so on, that bring that protection. So these are things that we should be incorporating into our lives, and they keep you in a constant state of protection. May Allah protect us always. Keeping righteous company is extremely important. Extremely important on many levels, even on this metaphysical level, right? Of having protection from when you are in foul environments, that brings foul energy. Regarded that when we say foul energy, we're talking about potentially being touched and impacted negatively by the jinn. Repentance and seeking forgiveness is also, of course, our protection. Our means of always turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this also brings protection from the jinn as well. Okay. 3 methods to remove the jinn. Okay. There are 3 ways. Only one of them is halal. 2 of them, don't even think about it. Right? 2 of them completely haram. The third way, ruqya shar'iyya, to recite the Quran, to recite certain dua that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, that those are means by which we, if someone we suspect or we feel that they are afflicted by jinn, and what are some of the signs? Actually, I should have put a slide together for that. Some of the signs that someone is affected and afflicted by jinn. They are averse to listening to the Quran. It happens. Somebody hears the Quran and they turn it off. Right? They have left their salah. They engage, they do strange behaviors that are out of character. You know, these sort of things are indications that they may be some jinn possession, and so then what do? Then you do ruqya shar'iyya. We'll talk about a little bit more what that is. But the other ways are not allowed. You can remove jinn by them, but you will put yourself into deeper trouble. So one is summoning another jinn that involves magic or witchcraft. You hire some weirdo dude, you know, and or some witch, and you pay them money, and they'll do all sorts of things. And we'll talk about magic in a bit, and they can remove that jinn. But now you've brought a whole other set of problems upon yourself. And we'll talk about that shortly, inshallah. And then the other thing that the jinn strive to do, especially the disbelievers of the kuffar of the jinn, is that they want a person to renounce Islam. And once you renounce Islam, okay, if you renounce Islam, then I will leave you. So if somebody does that, the jinn will leave. They may or may not keep their promise, I don't know. But you know, that's what they're seeking to do. Okay, scary things. What is ruqya? Ruqya is simply the reading of the Quran, certain ayat in particular, some of the ones that we already mentioned, and certain dua. And you can find, you know, everywhere, anywhere and everywhere on the internet, small booklets that have compilation of ruqya that is from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and literally you read that. Now, actually I don't know if I have this or not. Maybe I don't have it. So who reads this? A righteous Muslim should be reading this. So it can be yourself. You don't need a sheikh to read ruqya shar'iyya. Anybody can read it. Anybody can read it. And I suggest you do that. And I suggest you do that even if you're not, you know, you're not like, there's not some very manifest signs of some sort of jinn activity. Still absolutely fine. These are means of protection. They're means of extraction of jinn and means of protection as well. Prevention and intervention both, right? That the ruqya serves. Okay. Ruqya can also be done through certain natural medicines. And this is another method that's acceptable, permissible. So the eating of honey, black seed, zamzam water, specifically reading Quran over zamzam water and drinking it. Even rainwater itself, because وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً مُبَارَكًا. We have sent down from the heavens blessed rain. So there's barakah in it, and that can be a means of protection and ridding oneself of jinn. Olive oil, bathing, general hygiene and perfume. Actually, jinn, the disbelieving jinn don't like good scents. They don't like good smells. So alhamdulillah, I love coming Thursday nights, Oasis. It smells beautiful in here, alhamdulillah. Not only what we're doing is a means of repelling them, but actually good scents are something they don't like. So this is, I'm just showing you just like, there's so much more, but I'm just showing you, like, just giving you a small window. What if someone is afflicted by a jinn? What do you do? And there is a jinn there. There's books, there's guidance as to what you do. Now, in these cases, this is where you want to get someone who knows what they're doing, because you want to have a result. So, but there are some things that you can do, and some of the books that are there that are written by authentic sources. There is some guidance as to what to do. So you ask them, what is your name? What is your religion? Why have you possessed this person? Are you alone in the possessed person, or are there others? How many? What are their religions? Sometimes there can be more than one. And the dialogue that you have with the jinni differs depending upon the religion of the jinni. So if it's a Muslim, then you're going to call them to taqwa Allah. Jinn, fear Allah. You believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Leave this person, get out. Give them peace. Go home, to your home. Right? That's how you talk to it. That's different than the one who's a kafir. And you tell the Muslim jinn, you say this is haram. You're not allowed to hurt this person, harm this person. You remind them. So this is actually this is what happens. This is how it's dealt with. If it's a kafir, then you call them to Islam. Your Lord is Allah. Believe in Him. Why don't you believe in Allah? You can talk to the jinn a lot more directly than you can talk to human beings, right? Like in other words, non-Muslims, we don't go around talking them that way, but the jinn you can talk to them that way directly, subhanAllah. And then you take a vow from them or pledge from them, a promise to never come back, because they do tend to come back in certain circumstances. Again, so this is just a window. I'm not telling you, giving you the full formula, nor do I do this work. I intentionally don't do this work. And I'll tell you why. And when I say you do this work, meaning we get phone calls sometimes. My mom, my son, my daughter, my whoever, if something is going on, they're not themselves, they're not normal, we think they're maybe a jinn, can you come, can you visit, can you do ruqya on them? We get those calls sometimes. And I personally don't take them. Why? Because number one, I'm not, I tell people what to do in their own homes. One of the things that the jinn can do is they can take revenge. And so if you deal with them and you do certain things so put it like this. I know one of the imams in LA, his father used to do ruqya. He would go around and he was known in the community, and that's what he would do, and very frequently, because it's an important service, so to speak. He stopped doing it because it started having effects on his family. In other words, the jinn will seek revenge. They will come to your home. In certain cases, there's another imam, I think Brother Aftab mentioned him last time I know him. Allah give him shifa. A wonderful brother, Sheikh Shakib. He opened a center. He had two centers. One was in Dallas, one was in Chicago, but I visited it. This is a few years ago, but it's been closed now for a number of years because basically he's bedridden, completely, afflicted. He had, from his childhood, he had, sort of these interactions with the jinn, and then they were extracted, and he gave a vow that he would go serving Muslims and taking care of this amongst them, but unfortunately, he got afflicted in a very, very bad way. And so Allah give him shifa, and I don't know what his current state is, but these are some of the things that can happen. So, all right. So we're going to transition a little bit now and talk about sihr. Let's see. I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for Q&A, but let's do it at the end. I'm tempted to stop now and talk about jinn and then take some questions, but let's kick it all to the end. If you have questions, they're burning, write them down so you don't forget them, and we'll have plenty of time, inshallah. So, as-sihr. In the Arabic, as-sihr encompasses all of this. There's no differentiating words for these things that we differentiate in English: sorcery, witchcraft, divination, necromancy. So magic, there's two types. There's magic that is tricks, illusions, sleight of hand, stuff like that, right? You go to the store and buy your little magic pack, and 10 little tricks you can do and do weird things, right? Just mess around with some stuff and trick people. There's a little slot thing, there's a little thing, that hides the ball or whatever, right? You're just tricks. That kind of magic, there's nothing wrong with it. We're talking about black magic, sorcery. That is what is in Islam haram. And so and it's real. Some people will wonder, wait a second, is this even real? How can it? No, it is real. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about this. And this is in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّبَعُوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر. That they taught, the devils, they taught magic to the people. They taught magic to the people. And so this is something that the Quran says is a reality, and that is done. And then there's a lot in this ayah. I could actually go through, tafsir of this ayah. There's a lot to learn from it. But just to quickly show you that this is something that exists. And one of the things that it says there, فَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مِنْهُمَا مَا يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. They people learned magic that caused a rift even between husband and wife. Like, that's a common thing. And that's a big thing for shaitan. There's a famous hadith, I think it's in Sahih Muslim, where shaitan, he's sitting on his throne and the different shayateen are coming to him. And they're saying, we did this, we did this. He said, you did nothing. And one of them comes and says, I was able to cause dissension between husband and wife. He says, come close, you're the man. Like, that's real work. That's shaitani work, right? Satanic work. So that is, anyways, that's what the shayateen do. So magic is a real thing. Necromancy, I looked this up. Necromancy is trying to, communicate with the spirit world. They think they're speaking to the souls of dead people and stuff like that. No, they're speaking to Jinn. And so that's what that is, right? Witchcraft, you guys know what witches are. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Falaq, He gives us this formula by which to seek refuge. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And from the evil of those witches, and naffathat are those that tie knots. They blow and they tie knots and they do weird things, and pots and cauldrons of weird things that they put in there. Those things are real. Voodoo dolls, those are real. I don't know, I can't think of other examples, but these are real sorts of, different types of sorcery and black magic that people do, and those exist. Such that even Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was put under a magic spell. Sayyidah Aisha, she says, and this hadith is in Sahih Bukhari, سُحِرَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. He was, magic was worked upon him. And I'll read through this hadith. She says that magic was worked on the Prophet ﷺ so that he began to fancy that he was doing a thing which he was actually not doing. Like, he wasn't fully conscious of what he was doing. One day he invoked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a long period of time, making dua. And he says, I feel that Allah has inspired me as to how to cure myself. In other words, he felt that he is off and he's asking Allah to cure him. And he says, I think I have the answer. 2 people came to me in my dream and sat, one by my head and one by my feet. This is the Prophet ﷺ talking, what he saw in a dream. One person standing by my head, one by my foot. One of them asked the other, what is the ailment of this man? The Prophet ﷺ is seeing himself in his sleep, sleeping, and 2 people talking about him. They're saying, what is the ailment of this man, of the Rasulullah ﷺ? The other one replies, he has been bewitched. The first one asked, who has bewitched him? The other one replied, I think it's Labid. Labid or Lubayd, actually could go both ways. Ibn al-A'sam. The first one asked, what material has he used? Like what magic did he use on it? The other one says, a comb, the hair gathered on it, and the outer skin of the pollen of the male date palm. You know, you guys know this, right? Black magic, they try to take pieces of your skin, some of your clothing, some of your belongings, something like that, right? The first one asked, where is that? The other one replied, is in the wall of the well. Like, so they're talking, the Prophet ﷺ is being shown this dialogue, and he's being shown where those items that were used to do this magic upon him, where they are. So the Prophet ﷺ went out towards the well and returned and said to me on his return, its date palms are like the heads of the devils. I asked, did you take out those things with which the magic was worked? He said, no, for I have been cured by Allah, and I'm afraid that this action may spread evil amongst the people. Later on, the well was filled up with earth. So the Prophet ﷺ was able to cure himself. And then there are other accounts of, and this is, I've sat with some of the mashayikh that do ruqya, and they talk about these stories. Like, they are told, so they'll do ruqya on someone. There's a jinn inside of them. They talk to the jinn. The jinn has said, I was sent by such and such black magician, I don't know if that's a word, or sorcerer, right? Or a witch. I was sent by them to occupy this person. And then the jinn will tell them what that sorcerer or witch used to put the magic spell on them. And they'll tell them where that thing is, and they'll find, and I've seen the pictures, the Sheikh, we did a couple trainings and they showed us, the pictures, like these, freaky looking dolls and other things like that, that they would find because they would talk to the jinn, and the jinn would tell them where those things were. And then you take those things and then you destroy them, and then the magic is lifted, the jinn will leave, and so forth. So subhanAllah. Learning magic is kufr. It is not allowed. It is haram. To learn black magic is not something that we touch, not something that we mess with at all. The reason why is because you can't do it without the assistance of a shaitan, and that comes with making certain deals with them and doing certain things that are not allowed to do, and do certain things, and by the way, one of the very common forms that magic takes place, and I didn't want to put pictures, and I didn't want to show videos, and I didn't want to do that kind of stuff. That's, we'll just talk about it. But if you ever see any paper, weird symbols on it, stuff like that, that is a blatant manifest sign of, some magic spell and such. And so, in any case, so we are, of course, not allowed to do that. And this is from the ayah. وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. The angels never taught anyone without saying Harut and Marut, mentioned in the ayah that we read earlier. We are only a test for you, so do not abandon your faith. Do not become a kafir by learning this from us. They taught magic, but they told us don't learn. It was, there's a whole story there, but anyways, people learned from them, but they warned them against learning from them. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, beware of the al-mubiqat as-sab'a, the 7 deadly sins. From amongst them, he mentioned magic. The punishment of the magician is what? Is that he be struck with the sword, that he should be beheaded. This is from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in Tirmidhi. And so it's actually really interesting. There's a story of one of the Sahaba. His name was Jundub. And this is at the time of the Umayyad Khulafa, after al-Khulafa al-Rashidun. Right? So in Bani Umayyah, they started engaging in some sort of things that were, very problematic. They started allowing magicians and fortune tellers to practice their things that they would do. Not only that, they would bring them into the royal court, into that setting, because it was so ajib, so bizarre, the things they were able to do. And the state, since they did stop, since the state, they stopped applying Sharia. The Bani Umayyah, they stopped applying Sharia. So some of the Sahaba would take it upon themselves. They still were, some of them were alive. They would take it upon themselves to enforce the Sharia. So the Khalifa al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik, he had a man in his court who used to do magic. And one time this magician, he severed a man's head and he separated completely from his body. Okay? When the shock of his deed, electrified the audience, then he proceeded to further amaze them by rejoining the head. The man then appeared as if his head had never been cut off. The people in the audience, they gasped, "Subhanallah, he's able to give life to the dead." The Sahabi, Jundub, he noticed all of the commotion in Walid's court. He came, he watched the magician's performance. On the following day, he came with the sword strapped on his back. When the magician stepped up to begin his show, Jundub, he came out of the crowd, he pulled out his sword and he chopped off his head. And he turned to the audience that's startled now and he says, if he's really able to bring life to the dead, then let him bring himself back to life. Right? And so this Al-Walid, the Khalifa, he put the Sahabi Jundub in jail. But what was he doing? He was trying to prevent people from being attracted to this kufr that was being done, and being done, blatantly and by the rulers for that matter. How do we protect ourselves from magic? Very quickly, we say our daily adhkar. Ideally, may Allah help us to say our adhkar in the morning and in the evening. And it's even related by the Prophet ﷺ that the taking of 7 dates, ajwa dates. Some of the scholars, they say any 7 dates that come from Medina, even if it's not ajwa. They broaden the meaning of this hadith. Whoever awakes, man asbaha ala sab'in min al-ajwa, they will not be harmed that day by any poison or magic. So that is also another protection. What are some of the means, the cure? It's possible to go to the magicians and ask them to remove the magic. That's haram. It's possible, but it's haram. Some people do that, by the way, Muslims, which is a horrible thing. Like you go to people of shirk, and you go to people who literally deal with the devil to get help to cure you of something, or somebody in your family of something. They can do it, but you will have other problems, and now you have also compromised your deen, by doing that. Then of course the other cure is by utilizing halal means, and that's what we should do. Number 1 is by extracting and nullifying it, meaning it's the best method. You turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, I'm afflicted by this, please help me, please show me, please remove this from me. And just like it was shown to the Prophet ﷺ, it can also be shown to us. And that can happen in a dream. If the other way can be done, if there's ruqya that's being done, and the jinn will speak, as we may say, and they may disclose where that is. Removing the jinni that is responsible for the magic from the body of the afflicted can also be done by hijama. If you know what hijama is, it's wet cupping, which is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Basically, you take there are certain incisions that are made in a certain parts of the body. People that are specialized in hijama, they know these things. And there's a couple in LA. If anybody ever wants to do that, happy to provide those contacts. And it's and there are small incisions. You put a cup. There's different ways by which that a vacuum is made, either by lighting it or suction, and then you pull, and then the bad blood basically comes out. And so it's also a way to remove jinn. And then of course, by doing ruqya. Okay. Let's talk about excuse me, evil eye. Briefly, what is evil eye? Or al-hasad? Or al-ain? To look at something with admiration whilst feeling jealousy and envy, this causes harm to the one being looked at. And as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, as in the hadith that's on the bottom there, al-ainu haqq. Al-ainu haqq. The evil eye is true. It's real. It does happen. It does happen. Like, in other words, you may think like, well, how can that just happen? You look at someone and you envy them for something, and then bad things can happen to that person. How is that possible? The Prophet said, Al-ainu haqq. It's true. It happens. With Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, when his sons were going to Egypt. Remember Yusuf alayhi salam, he does, he has the sort of golden cup stolen from the thing. He keeps his brother Benjamin with him, and then the other 10, they have to go back to Philistine. They come back. The father says, لا تدخلوا من باب واحد وادخلوا من أبواب متفرقة. That don't enter from one gateway of the city. If you imagine in those days there were walled cities all around. It says don't enter all from one gateway, go from different places. Why? They're 10 big strong men. He doesn't want them to people look at them and say, oh wow, look at these guys. Right? He didn't want them to be afflicted by this, and so that's why, so that's the reason why he says it that way. Evil eye, it can happen from humans, it can happen from jinn, which subhanAllah, that's also within the realm of possibility. The result of seeing something amazing without actually envy, it can actually happen even if you don't consciously are not consciously envious of someone. But if you go into someone's house, for example, and you start looking around, and you say, wow, you're loaded. That's what you're supposed to say, right? But if you don't say that, then it's a problem. And al-ayn can even happen from a righteous person. It can even happen from a loved one. Okay? Ibn al-Qayyim, he says, it is like an arrow which leaves the heart of the envious towards the one being envied. Sometimes it will hit its target and sometimes it will miss. If it finds him without any armor or protection, it will strike him. Meaning if the person doesn't protect himself with dua, with Quran, with righteousness, with taqwa. However, if it finds him with shields and armor which has no gaps, it will not affect him. There's nothing to worry about. It is similar to a real arrow, for one is from the soul and heart, whilst the other is from the body and limbs. Huh? So just a nice description of how it works. How do you protect yourself from the evil eye? Number one, to seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by reciting Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Al-Nas, make dua. That's number one. Anytime you go around and you see something nice that somebody has, oh brother, that's a nice shirt. MashaAllah. Allahumma barik. MashaAllahu la quwwata illa billah. Right? Any of these different. وَإِذْ دَخَلْتَ جَنَّتَكَ وَقُلْتَ مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, about the guy who went to the other guy's garden, and so forth. So that is why we say that, mashallah. It's a real thing, so that nothing bad happens to the receiving party. The other way you protect yourself is to conceal that which a person feels may be in danger of being inflicted with evil eye. In other words, don't go around flaunting and showing off all your stuff, whatever that may be, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Ista'inu ala qada'i hawaijikum bil kitman." Seek assistance in, taking care of your affairs with secrecy, with privacy. Like, don't go around showing your stuff. When I lived in Egypt, I learned something. Like there, we lived in an apartment building, so you have to park your car on the street and walk on the sidewalk, and there's shop owners there because the bottom floor is like shops. There's the doorman, there's people on the street, there's a lot of people around. It's not like here, you go into a suburb and you go into your driveway, there's nobody around for miles, nobody sees you, and right there is full of people. And then you go inside, and then there's an elevator, maybe build up. When you buy your stuff at the store, you put it in a bag, you close the bag, nobody sees what you have, and you go up. You don't show people, even if it's little stuff. The guy in the street, he may be dirt poor, and they are dirt poor. And now you're bringing all these goods and this, and it's easy for that to fall. So do things that, when you do things, do them in private. That's why Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all this stuff, if you are using it to show off, like your food, oh, look at this, mashallah, this amazing, beautiful meal that $200, $500 meal that I have, or how beautiful I arranged this fruits or whatever, that's not, you're inviting the eye, you're inviting an ayn, you're inviting the evil eye upon yourself. Don't do that. Why would you do that? And unfortunately, it's become like such a common thing. And it's nonsensical from an Islamic perspective, because we're supposed to do the opposite. Your private life is your private life. If you want to share it with your spouse or your kids, and you teach them, we're a close family, and we want to celebrate each other's good things in our life, but we also want to be conscious and just say mashallah whenever we do that too, even with your own family, because it can happen from your own families. So think about that, right? Think about how you do things. So let's see. I'll go through this quick. How do you cure the one that's afflicted? Sayyidah Aisha, she says, the one who used to inflict the evil eye would be ordered to make the wudu, and the afflicted would wash from it. And there's an incident of that in the seerah. They found out that somebody had the ayn, like they had, they were afflicted by evil eye. But it can be like brain fog. It can be just you're off and different things, right? So they asked, did anyone have it out for this person? And they all pointed to some guy. And so they went to that guy and they made him take a shower or a bath. The water in the pot that he had, in the hadith, I think it was made ghusl. In this narration here, it says wudu. Actually, it skips me. I'm not sure. It will go with this narration. It says that you make wudu, and then if I'm the one that ayn fell upon, then I wash with that. That's very interesting. It's a metaphysical thing. It's beyond our understanding, and like scientifically to kind of measure. So, but this is the cure for that, and ruqya as well. Okay. 9:11. Let's go a few more minutes. I'm going to go through this quickly, and there's some other interesting stuff. The Prophet ﷺ, he warned us about some of these things: fortune telling, astrology, horoscopes. The reason why we don't engage in these things is because the messenger that are conveying these things are the shayateen. These are matters that there are shirk tied to it. The foretelling of the future, of what's going to happen in the future, those are things that are the future is only known to Allah. Anybody who claims to have knowledge of the future is a liar. And anybody who believes in them has fell into a big problem and perhaps shirk. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man ata arrafan fasa'alahu an shay'in lam tuqbal lahu salatun 40 layla." Whoever visits a diviner, a fortune teller, a weird looking lady who looks all hippie-like and has a crystal ball, all of this stuff, and you ask them about anything, your prayer will not be accepted 40 days. The Prophet says, whoever goes to a fortune teller and believes what he says, you believe them, what they said, you have disbelieved in what was revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's an act of kufr. So these are not small things. The horoscopes that are on there in the newspaper every day or whatever things that people use, God, I don't know, probably apps there now, I don't know. Don't tell me if you know that. And if you know that, delete that sucker right away. I'm still a newspaper guy. I don't know what goes on in the world now. Taurus and Aries and Pisces and all of this. Don't look at that stuff. You are looking at information that was conjured up by people that work in this realm. And these are matters, the future is only known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And shaitan will take one truth and he will mix it up with 1,000 lies, and they're doing the same. And so we are not allowed to touch these things at all. The Prophet said, "Man iktasaba ilman min al-nujum, iqtabasa shu'batan min al-sihr, zada ma zad." If anyone acquires any knowledge of astrology, he acquires a branch of magic of what he gets more as long as he continues to do so. You're going deeper and deeper into a bad space. Okay, and it might just be one or two more slides. This is, this is also some stuff related to talk about superstition, charms, omens. These things have become like common in just popular culture, right? So people like have a rabbit. Is that still a thing? Lucky rabbit's foot? Is that still a thing? Really? I know it was when I was growing up. What a weird thing. You know what it's about? I did some research, right? What are some of these weird like things about? So there's something like, I've read these things and I forgot them right away. They're so nonsensical. So I had to pull out the book. Give me a second here. The rabbit's foot. The hind paws of rabbits are worn on chains and bracelets as good luck charms by millions of people in the West. The origin of this belief is based on the rabbit's habit of thumping their hind legs on the ground. According to the ancients, rabbits talked with the underground spirits when they thumped the ground. Hence, the paws were saved as a means of conveying one's wishes to the spirits, as well as an instrument for bringing good luck in general. Like, look what it's tied to. Right? Look what it's tied to. It seems innocent and nice and furry, but it's the superstition that's there behind it is tied in weird stuff. Horseshoes. This is still existent in Muslim cultures. You go to certain Desi cultures, you see horseshoes on the thing or something like that. Many houses in America have horseshoes nailed over their doors. Miniature versions also worn charm, bracelets, keys, necklace, blah, blah, blah. The origin of this belief can be found in ancient Greek mythology. In ancient Greece, horses were considered sacred. If a horse's shoe were hung over the door of a house, it was thought to bring good fortune. The open end of the horse had to be point upward though, so it would hold the good luck. MashaAllah. Pointed upwards, holding the good luck, right? You are giving credit to something that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power and authority over. For good to happen in your life, that belongs to Allah, not to some stupid symbol, not to some dumb little keychain thing. So when you do those things, you are giving power and authority that belongs to Allah to something else, to an inanimate object, for God's sake. So very dangerous things that we don't meant. Dream catchers, is that a thing? Yeah, I had a feeling, even though I don't know what's up, but just like Native American something or another, it catches dreams. I don't know what it does, and you guys know better than me. What is it? What is it? Huh?
Like catches nightmares, like it's bad.
Catches nightmares. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who dispenses good and evil. And items that have no authority by Allah have no authority to ward those things off. And you use those things, you are giving a power that belongs only to Allah to something. And we don't do that. Four-leaf clovers, still a thing. I was reading on it earlier. I already forgot what it is, but of course, the Irish. And you know what's really interesting? A lot of these like superstitious charms and these things, they're actually, they were based in pagan sort of culture, but then the Christians, they just put a spin on it. And you see that so often, which is so weird, right? I took a little picture of this. The four-leaf clover. Ancient Celtic priests or druids used clovers, shamrocks in their ceremonies. The rarer four-leaf clovers were considered powerful charms that offered magical protection and could ward off evil spirits and bad luck. MashaAllah. So and then in later Christian interpretations, the three leaves of the common shamrock were used by Saint Patrick to explain the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. The addition of a fourth leaf was then associated with God's grace or luck itself. I mean, how nonsensical is attributing things to, material objects that, our connection is always directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't give power to other things, then you are committing shirk because you are giving to things what only belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This thing, knock on wood. Muslims do it. I see it. It bothers me, right? What you knocking on wood for? What's that going to do for you? What's that going to do for you? First of all, it's just stupid, right? Second of all, it's based in people just do what they see other people do, right? When someone is thankful for something and hopes that his luck will not change, he says, knock on wood, and looks around for some wood to knock on. The origin of this belief goes back to the time when people in Europe thought that gods lived inside trees. To ask the tree god a favor, they would touch the tree. If the wish were granted, they would touch the tree again to thank the god. SubhanAllah. Like that's what it's grounded in. And then you just go around and do it because you see other people do it. It's stupid. Stupid is like the understatement of a lifetime, The ship, fingers crossed. Cross your finger. I read up on this just earlier because I don't know what the heck where it comes from, but I know it's something off. And it says that whatever in the ancient cultures, like you're gathering all of the good forces in one place. The Christians reinterpreted that and they're making a cross with their fingers. It's like our deen is beautiful. We don't convolute, we don't distort practices and then try to Islamicize them. If something is rooted in shirk, or in whatever other sort of evil, we reject it. We have nothing to do with it. We take everything that we take from Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't fall trap to these sort of things. The Christians, they do this thing. I don't even want to do it. I've never done it in my life, and I'm not about to do it right now. They do this thing on their, on their chest, and they make a cross, right? You know what I'm talking about. I'm not about to do it. It's the same thing. Like you are attributing powers to this. The power is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you think that, by doing some weird motion, some hokey pokey, jump around, put your fingers, tie them in a circle, knock on that's going to do something from it, right? The breaking a mirror. They say when you break a mirror, what is it? How many years? 7 years of bad luck. MashaAllah, broke a mirror. Now you said, like what, you know, they say ancient people thought that the reflections in water were their souls. So if the reflections were shattered, someone threw a pebble in the water, then their souls were also shattered. When mirrors were made, this belief was transferred to them also. You know, dumb is that. You know, black cats crossing in front of you is going to bring you good luck. The number 13 is somehow, you're in danger if you're next to them. All of these things rooted in, they seem like harmless little things, but they all tie back to pagan traditions and understandings of things. So then you have, sorry, I went long, but you know, it's just like, subhanAllah, there's so much here. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Man aqada uqdatan thumma nafatha fiha faqad sahara, wa man sahara faqad ashraka, wa man ta'allaqa shay'an wukkila ilayh." Whoever ties a knot, it should say, and blows on it, he has practiced magic. And whoever practices magic, he has committed shirk. And whoever hangs up something as an amulet, or as a talisman, or as some sort of charm, will be entrusted to it. We have people, it's very common in certain Muslim cultures, ta'weez or tama'im, these different things that people they put on their neck, made of different things, whatever it is, absolutely haram. When it comes to putting something from the Quran, there's difference of opinion. There's a difference of opinion. Most of the scholars were against it because, again, you're attributing power to something that does not have power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the power to protect. Some of the scholars, they allowed it, and they allowed it especially for people whose iman was very weak. So we have to, you know, acknowledge, but it's Quran. Allah is the one who's protecting. But if they need some place by which to focus, but the best is to stay away from these things. There's nothing, you don't wear something and you feel that this thing is protecting you. Forget about like shirk, which is the worst. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a piece of paper. It's just some rolled up thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who brings harm and benefit, the one who's in control of all things. When we, Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir, Allah is in control of everything, not people and what they do by making it, putting together weird things. So we'll stop here. We'll take some questions. My apologies for going long if you felt it was long. But I hope it was beneficial. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all evil, keep us safe from all of the tricks and deceptions and evil that is out there, put forward primarily solely by Shaitan and all of his agents. May Allah protect us from these things always. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep us on the right path and help us to see the world through the lens of the Quran and Sunnah, so that we are protected from the evil that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in this world. Any questions? Yes.
So I have like a couple of questions. So do you want to just take one of my questions and then
Sure.
come back?
Please.
So the first one is, I wanted to ask. So at work, someone brought in a money tree, and like as soon as I heard that, this happened like a few weeks ago, and I was just like, isn't that like shirk? Like, because they actually believe, like, they were like they were talking about it. They're like, oh, I'm not supposed to keep it like for myself. I'm supposed to gift it so that it works. Like, and this is like a new company, so, and like I want to like, I don't know, like, I want to like talk to my boss. My boss is, I don't know what to do, because
It's not a Muslim organization that you
it's
work
not a
in.
Muslim organization,
Okay.
but some of the people that work there are Muslim.
And they're falling into it?
No, they're kind of just like okay with like the employee like doing that.
Yeah.
But they're not like as like knowledgeable.
So your question is, do I have a you didn't say this, but I'm kind of reading. Do I have a responsibility to address this in my workplace, even though this is, I'm going to be a little,
Yeah.
sort of rough in my language, even though this is kuffar that are participating in this, do I have a responsibility in standing up? I mean, you can say as a Muslim, I feel uncomfortable. This is this is tied to superstitious things, and so I find it a little offensive, and especially if it's right in full display. There is a religious, angle to this, but you only do that if you feel you're going to be hurt. Don't do it if you're wasting your breath. In other words, you may get blown off and like, oh, what are you talking about?
I just thought that
This is you're weird for bringing it up. So you want to have some sense of who you're talking about and what you're saying.
Sorry, it's just that like the majority owner of the company is Muslim. Like two of them are
okay.
Muslim,
Oh.
so I wouldn't want
There you go.
anything to harm
There you go.
their
So
success.
then you should address it.
Okay.
Then you should address it, but you go prepared,
Okay.
right? You go prepared, and you bring some of these examples, right? Okay. Well, that's important. That last piece of information. Yeah. Number 2.
Oh, my next question.
Sure. So,
Okay, so there's been a saying, and I don't know if it's Islamic or if it's cultural, but whenever you see a shoe flipped upside down, they say to flip it on the right side. So is that Islamic or is that cultural?
they also say that if you just leave your musalla out, the shaitan is going to come pray on it, huh? So, no, there's nothing that I know of that, no Islamic teaching tied to that, as far as how your shoes are faced. It can be good etiquette to put your shoes nicely and orderly, but there's nothing more than that. Yes. Yes, sister.
Hearing Quranic verses in a quiet place and just hearing it, is it from Jinn or is it something that is in our head because we're constantly praying?
That depends. If it is actually.
Could you just repeat some of the questions?
Oh, sure, of course. You said hearing Quranic verses in a quiet place, is that just in my head or is that the jinn or something else reading them? Yeah? That depends. if that depends on what it actually is. I mean, if it is you in your head, you listen to a lot of Quran and you're that's playing in your head, that's there in your head. But if it's something other than that, I don't know what that is.
Even if it's like La ilaha illallah,
I don't know.
do jinns pray? Do they?
Jinn do pray. There are Muslim jinn. Will you hear their chanting out loud or their reciting out loud or their dhikr out loud? Allahu Ta'ala, I don't know. I don't see why not. You can hear other things from them, so I don't see why not. Very interesting, to say the least. Yeah. Yes, sister.
Okay, so I have a few questions.
Sure.
But so where do we get help if we need to have help, to get help, and who to trust?
Good
Who's
question.
legit?
Yes, very good question.
You know,
Thank you for asking.
If it's beyond the point that we
Yes.
can't do repair.
Yes, very good question. Excellent question. There are people that are legit and there are people that are completely illegit. And this is really important. This is maybe for those who, have things, they have some follow-up work to do on some of the things that we mentioned today. This is really important. there are mashayikh, there are, shuyukh, righteous people that work in this field. They do ruqya. They are people of taqwa. They are people, Quran is their life, and those are people that should be relied upon, depended upon in this regard. If people need contacts, I'm happy to share them. There are people, on the other hand, that are shams and charlatans, and those people should absolutely be stayed away from.
So how do we know?
How do you know? Good question.
Because we
Number-
think we trust the shaykh
number
or something,
one,
you know?
Yes. Number one, if you have a question and you hear of someone, you ask them questions. You mini interview them on the front end. Can you tell me about your process? What will you do? Number two, do you have any references that I may ask you about? They may be offended by some of these questions, which is fine. That's in and of itself is problematic. If they don't recognize the sensitivity that's there and they're offended by them, you're harming their, how dare you ask me? That's a sign in and of itself, potentially, as far as what are clear signs and there are people that are local that fit this description. And without saying names, and if anybody wants names, I'm happy to share them with you individually, privately. There is a local imam who he claims he does ruqya. He takes women into private hotel rooms, no mahram, nothing, touches them and beyond. So that person things should be done to that person that, I won't say on a microphone. That person has no right, and we've complained to the administration of that masjid where that person is. We've taken it all the way to the Shura Council. We've let the people of standing know that this person is there. Short of going out and putting out a big poster, we've kind of broadcasted the danger of that person. So those people we should be very extremely wary of. And the other way you can is you ask other people, ask other imams. Say, I want to go get ruqya. I was told to go such and such. Is he a legitimate, place or source to go to? And so those are some pointers there.
Okay, and then regarding the bathroom, does there have to be an actual door barrier between the toilet and where you wash your hands, or what if it's like a big bathroom?
Yeah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. The safest road is that, when you go in the door, if there's only one door and it's a big bathroom and the toilet's you say the dua when you enter in the general space, right? To be the safest, and you don't say Allah's name in that open space if there's no smaller door. But wallahu ta'ala a'lam, I think it's still acceptable if the sink is all the way there and the toilet's all the way there, even though it's one big room. What's the intent in the hadith is the toilet.
Yeah. Regarding you said ruqya, like rainwater. I know about Zamzam water, but so actual rainwater,
Yeah.
you could collect it and.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then bakhur, like when people bakhur.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
So, because they do it. I know culturally, like
Yeah.
parents or wedding, people do bakhur to .
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read anything about sense except that the disbelieving jinn, they don't like it.
So it's okay to do before and read Quran.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I'll let other people go around. We'll come back around.
Okay.
I get to sit here and ask all the questions.
Listen up. Yes.
How does evil eye work in terms of Islam? Because I know that a lot of secular places believe in evil eye. So what's the difference between how we interpret evil eye versus how they interpret evil eye?
I don't know how they interpret it so as to be able to comment on the difference. But I mean, I did talk about how we see it.
But I meant like, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I meant like, is it like jinn who carry out like causing other people
I
to have
see.
brain fog?
Yeah. When the Prophet spoke about it, he didn't mention, nor do the scholars typically mention necessarily anything associated with jinn as it relates to the evil eye. So honestly speaking, my limitation of my knowledge, is there some involvement with the jinn in the evil eye process? I don't know. I didn't come across that in my readings. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, okay. Yes, this one.
This is kind of a bigger picture question. I know there's a concept of qadr and free will in Islam, from my understanding it goes together. Is there Islamically appropriate way to perceive luck, or what is luck exactly? Is it just random? Is there Islamic concept? I know you talked about fortune telling, all of that is
Good.
haram. So how do we perceive luck, or just
Good question. How do we conceptualize, how do we perceive luck in Islam? Is that a thing? Do we, so we, as you know, mentioned a few times earlier, everything good and bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If in a person's life, they have one good event after the next, after the next, after the next, happen to them, what does that mean, right? That could mean a number of things. It could mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blessing them with various blessings. It could mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them. And by the way, they're one and two wrapped up in the same. The blessing is the test, right? It could be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is punishing them, meaning it is this person is being given these things because they have transgressed, and now they're being given these things so that they think that this is because of my doing and because of my status and stature and this and that. You know what I'm saying? So, and conversely, somebody could have in their life a string of heavy events happen, bad events happen, and could be the same exact thing. It's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a test always. It's a blessing, it's a punishment. How do we understand it? So the state of the believer is two. It's either gratitude or patience. Right? The Prophet says, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلُّهُ خَيْرٌ وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. That amazing is the affair of the believer, and that all of his affairs are good, and that is for no one except the believer. If good things happen to him, he is patient. If good things happen to him, he is thankful, and if hard times fall on him, then they're patient. So that's how we see it, and that's how we deal with it. Do we see luck the way Western society sees luck, that it's just random, by chance, or that I'm somehow favored by however they conceptualize that? No. Everything good comes from Allah. Everything that is also difficult in our life also comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have a responsibility as to how to react to that. Allahu ta'ala. Good question. This is a very good question. Yes, you have a question or a comment?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so why would somebody want to be involved with witchcraft or necromancy in the first place?
Why would somebody want to be involved? I don't know. You ask them, not me. Why would somebody want to be involved in these dark, arts, as they're called? I think I have no idea. This is a scary, evil world and place. Some people have fell into so much evil that they fall to the call of the devil, and and some people fall deep, 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 and that's deep when you go into those things, no doubt. Yeah. Yes, sister.
So when it comes to jinn possession or jinn attachment, you mentioned that like the signs are like the person is no longer praying and they start you didn't mention they start doing weird things or they act out of character. But like is it something that a person can recognize or are you almost dependent on your loved ones to recognize
Could be either
that
or.
you're
It could be either or. It could be either or. It could be, so the question is, jinn possession, is it something that someone can diagnose, so to speak, recognize, or is it something that somebody else, around you will see? It could be either or. A person who is, very good awareness of themselves may be able to see that, and part of it is just like is diagnostic, right? Is wait a second, what's going on with me? I'm not eating right. I'm not sleeping right. Well, maybe there's something in the spiritual realm, right? So that could be a self, sort of diagnosing process. For others, it's and this is probably the more common case is that it's helpful for others to kind of share that with them, and point that out. Hey, I noticed that such and such and such, and maybe we should explore. And it's no harm in reading ruqya. It's no harm in increasing our reading of the Quran.
well, because it could also be possible that family members think that but maybe the person just depressed or
It
is
is.
different
It
for
is.
other reasons.
It is, absolutely. So, the question then is this person depressed or just depressed or possessed, right? Like how do you kind of how do you differentiate between that, right? Again, depression has certain symptoms. Being possessed has certain symptoms. Look at the symptoms, and then you try the remedies. That there's no harm in trying remedies that work for depression, meaning regulating your sleep, eating well, exercising, maintaining a good regimen, and so on and so forth. Right? Those are difficult things for a depressed person to do, but that is the means to break out. For somebody who's at a clinical level of depression, they may need certain meds to deal with the biological reality that's there, right? And maybe if there's progress, alhamdulillah. If there's not, and even concurrently, then looking at some of the spiritual remedies is important. By the way, it's really interesting. Well, I don't want to get into different subjects. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned that good things that happen in our life come from Allah. Can things that we perceive as good or du'as being answered also come from shaitan? And if we pray for a job or pray for a car, pray for more money, can shaitan grant us that knowing that it will lead us down a bad path?
Shaitan cannot grant you a single thing in the world. So the question is, can shaitan grant you something good? And he's essentially trying to, lead you astray by presenting yourself. Shaitan cannot give you a single thing. The only thing that shaitan can do is whisper to you and say, you should do this and this and this and this will happen. Tempt you. I think that answers the question. Yes, brother.
How come jinns are of various religions?
Because they have free will just like us. How come jinns have various religions? Because they have free will just like us, right? And oftentimes in the Quran, jinn and ins, human beings, are mentioned side by side, right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We didn't create the jinn nor the human except for the purpose of worshipping me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, right? So if jinn were created for the purpose of worship just like us, that means they have the that and knowing other things, that they have free will to obey or disobey. And so that they fall on the same continuum that we do. Right? Yes, sister.
So, if black magic was done like physically, like someone tied something or like buried something,
Yeah.
and you can't like unbury it. You can't like basically you can't remove it or like clear the issue.
Yeah.
Can you just like, and you don't even know if it even like happened, but like can you just like recite Quran or like
Right.
pray or
Right.
make dua like to protect yourself, even though that thing is still there and you can't do anything about it?
Right. Good question. Did everybody hear that? No. If magic was done to someone and it was done by tying some knots or putting some hair in something and it's buried somewhere, if you don't find that buried magic spell thing that was done, can you still get rid of the magic? Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Allah knows best. Yes, that was what happened with the Prophet ﷺ. And the example that the magic was lifted in his turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was shown to him where it was, but they weren't able to find it, but it was still lifted, right? So deducing from that yes, and that would seem to be within Allah's justice and mercy and so on and so forth, right? But it can be shown to us too, and there may be means by which that can be somehow remedied, even if it's not able to be accessed. And so we've talked about some of the remedies, right? What that looks like. So
I have a follow up to that.
Sure.
So I hope this doesn't come off wrong, because I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's like the Almighty, like the All Powerful. But why I sometimes it's hard for me to understand why like magic is allowed to like happen, or that like people doing things like evil eye. I kind of understand, like it could help the person maybe turn to Islam, the person that's affected, or I don't know, Allahu alam. But it's hard for me to understand why like people who do like the black magic, or how why is that, like why does it work, like?
Yeah. I mean, we looked at this, right? The ayah says it all. The answer is here. That's what you see there. وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. It is a fitna. It is a test for people. It is one of the ways by which people can choose to brush aside. I don't want to have anything to do with that. My Lord is Allah. I don't want to deal with this other stuff that's going to take me away from my Lord. Or somebody succumbs to that, that temptation. And so it is a means by which, just like so many other things in this world, are a means by which our faith is tested, whether or not it's true, whether or not we're going to go in the right direction, whether we're not going to make the right decision, right? And this is just another one of those things. If you put it in that sort of like, perspective, it's just another one of those things. It's a very negative and evil and scary and dangerous thing, and that in and of itself should be enough to lead someone. You know what I'm saying? But that's why people can be very conflicted when they are suffering great sort of harm and pain, and then they find this one like hole, like maybe let me take this shortcut and find my pathway to, or you want to inflict harm on someone, right? And let me take this, and essentially sell your soul and do these evil things. And so it becomes that testing point. It's that testing point. What are you going to do? You're going to be patient? Are you going to man up? Are you going to deal with the difficulty in the moment and go through the suffer and take a prescribed course of remediation towards what is right or what is good for you? Or are you going to take the easy path and fall, because you didn't pass that test. That's how I see it. Allah Ta'ala. Allah knows best.
I think if we keep going, it's
Yeah.
just,
No, we wanna end.
this topic is not gonna end.
Yeah, we'll go one more question, just to make it interesting. I want to give our, sorry, but just somebody else who also didn't ask the question. Yes, last question, Sean.
There's two. One's really silly, but I'm just like, you said that there's jinns that want to take revenge, and sometimes like, if you like trip on them or something, and what if you're just a really clumsy person, and you're just like falling everywhere, like, are you supposed to be like mindful, like, oh, there's like something here?
No.
Like, but I guess my other question is, you know, you said that like there's certain moments where like these things can take control of you when you're more vulnerable, right? And it's like, we also have to be mindful of like protecting ourselves and making sure that like we're not putting our situations where we are open to vulnerabilities like the jinn or a nazar or like the evil eye, all of those things. But I think it's so easy to go into both extremes, right? One being negligent of all of those things and letting those vulnerabilities come in, but also being so paranoid that you can't, like it overtakes every single thing that you're doing in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
For some people.
Yeah.
So how, like, I guess just commentary on how is it to kind of have that middle path?
Yeah, and so the problem is those extremes, right? And
Yeah.
you summed it up yourself. In the scholars, they talk about this in so many matters of our deen. La ifrat wa la tafrit, and we don't become negligent, nor do we go to an extreme in terms of our application. So the negligence is not having any protective measures. To somebody to leave their salah altogether, somebody to leave any sort of remembrance of Allah, any sort of dhikr, you know, in any circumstance of that's negligence. So you're opening up yourself to the extreme, and this is there in other people. Oh my God, no, we can't even. We can't even. We're not going to go to the masjid because people are going to see my daughter. She's so beautiful, and it's all over. You know, people are gonna become jealous. People are gonna become envious of her. She's gonna, I'm not gonna nazar ho jayega. Probably didn't say it right. Like we don't. That's an extreme, and that's there in some cultures, right? Like everything is ayn, everything is like hasad. Everything is that's an extreme. Like we're in the middle path in everything. And this no different in this. So you take your precautionary measures, but you don't become ridiculous in how you move and navigate your lifestyle. And I'll end with this, just last comment. And look, this subject that we talked about, it's not to freak anybody out, as I mentioned this earlier, right? It's not to freak you out, it's not to put you on like some kind of weird hyper-vigilance that like you're looking around your shoulder and I always feel like somebody's watching me. I don't know if some of you might get that reference, right? So that's not the point. But the point is to have a bit of a heightened awareness, like there is this reality that's there. If there is something out of the ordinary, we do need to look into this. And on top of that, we do need to have a protective fortress around us so that we are protected as much as possible. You know that small famous dua of Hisnul Muslim, Hisnul Hasin, the fortified fortress. Our adhkar is our means of keeping under Allah's watchful eye and His protection. That's what we want. That's what I need to do more in that regard. All of us need to do more. And so when we talk about these matters, hopefully that's what's being elicited inside of us. Like, yeah, my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to be stronger. But not that my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to be stronger. Oh my God. I'm so vulnerable. The jinn are all around me, and people are looking. No, not like that. But no, that I need to improve in my relationship with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And then they're also recognizing the cure, the intervention part if things do happen too. That's having some awareness of how this works. Ask Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to protect us from all harm and all evil. Ask Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to teach us that which benefits us and to benefit from what we learn and to increase us in knowledge. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una وزدنا علما وعملا صالحا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون احسنه. اللهم اجعل هذا الجمع جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعد تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا ولا بيننا شقيا ولا محروما. Ask you, Ya Allah, to make this a blessed gathering, to make our coming together blessed and our parting blessed, and to protect us on our way homes and in all aspects of our life. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه